Hello, friends. I'm RJ Rajiv from the Suno Audio Studio here in Washington DC. आप सबका स्वागत है हमारे आज के इस शो में। और आज का शो जो है थोड़ा खास शो है क्योंकि एक प्ले लेके आ रहे हैं नाट्य भारती के प्लेटफॉर्म के अंडर. इट्स कॉल्ड डेथ इन सैन फ्रांसिस्को ऑन दिस वीकेंड ऑन October 8th and 9th at 4 p.m. at JCC in Rockville, Maryland on Montrose Road, Bender Community Hall. So do plan to come to support. And just FYI, I'm also acting in that particular play, playing a critical part, the one of the uh, playing the brother of one of the lead characters. So I won't give the story away on this interview, but I wanted to talk about certain things about फ्रॉम द इंडियन कल्चर. सब लोग नवरात्रे मना रहे हैं और आजकल के दिनों में सब लोग जाके गरबा भी कर रहे होंगे, गरबा रास कर रहे होंगे, पूजा मना रहे हैं. और एक इंडियन जो कल्चर है हमारा इस देश में ऐसा एम्बेड हो चुका है बिकॉज when you go and look at the Navratri, there are like hundreds and hundreds of people out there. And I've also starting to see this melting pot coming together where we see a lot of Americans who do not even understand the music that is playing, but the beats just catches up with them, and they're learning the steps of Garba Ras. They're doing dandiyas. They're learning dandiyas steps. So Indian culture has really embedded into the U.S. culture as such. And when we look at the weddings, right? आजकल के वेडिंग्स पे लोग घोड़े में आ रहे हैं, गोल्फ कार्ट में आ रहे हैं, हाथी में आ रहे हैं, लाइक. And interestingly, I was talking to some of the wedding planners as such. और जब होटल्स को फोन करो तो उनको हमारे वेडिंग के सारे डेज की चीजें पता होती हैं. जिससे भी बात कर लो, मैरियट को फोन करो, हिल्टन को फोन करो, दे विल टेल यू अच्छा आपका संगीत भी होगा, आपकी हल्दी मेहंदी भी होगी, उसके बाद आपकी शादी होगी, उसके बाद आपका रिसेप्शन होगा. I know you may want a food from some outside caterer, etc., etc. The thing is really coming together. पर जब डेथ की बात आती है, किसी के चले जाने की बात आती है, और जब हम उस टॉपिक को लेके अपने कल्चर के बारे में बातें करते हैं, तो पता नहीं क्यों लोग बहुत सेंसिटिव हो जाते हैं. पता नहीं क्यों लोग सोचने लगते हैं कि हम इसकी बातें क्यों कर रहे हैं, जबकि डेथ इज पार्ट ऑफ द साइकिल ऑफ लाइफ. जिस तरह हम लाइफ को एंजॉय करते हैं, खुशियों को लोगों के साथ शेयर करते हैं, उसी तरह हमें डेथ भी, और डेथ के साथ जो हमारे रिचुअल्स बने हुए हैं उनको भी शेयर करना चाहिए. लोगों को समझ में आना चाहिए कि हमारे रिचुअल्स क्या हैं, कैसे बड़े हुए हैं. और इसी को एक कॉमिक रूप में लेके आ रहे हैं हमारा प्ले जो है डेथ इन सैन फ्रांसिस्को, विच इज हैपनिंग दिस वीकेंड. तो आज मैं बात करना चाहता था हमारे स्टूडियो में सुजीत शराफ को, who is joining us from San Francisco, and he is the playwright of the play Death in San Francisco. So welcome, Sujit, to our platform.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
And we have Chris Murthy, who is the director of the play Death in San Francisco for Natya Bharati. And we have Meera Narasimhan, who is the co-director for the play Death in San Francisco for Natya Bharati's platform. So welcome to the platform, guys, or to Suno Audio. And before first question I want to direct really towards Sujit, who is the playwright, is your motivation. What motivated you to write this play, Death in San Francisco?
Well, you mentioned our Hindu, mostly Indian ceremonies, Daha Sanskar ceremonies. I have a most of us probably have a strange relationship with those ceremonies. We perform them, as I did, for my mother and my father. When I wrote the play, my father had passed away, so I had performed them. And I understand them to be an important part of our lives. But I do sometimes wonder whether they make sense. I mean, we all know that our pundits horribly mispronounce all the chants. I have to keep correcting the pundits. We all know that we go through the motions without uh, taking into account what these ceremonies supposedly mean. You know, there is a well-known action where after the dead body has mostly burned away, the son cracks the skull open, the skull of of the parent, mother or father, open. It's a very violent act. The Chandal, again, I don't want to get into details of exactly who a Chandal is, but a Chandal gives you a pole, a bamboo pole, and you crack your own parent's skull open. So each of these carries a certain meaning, and most of us don't care. We just go through the motions. It is a job to be done. So I've always wondered where ceremony overtakes meaning. And This becomes even more acute when something like that happens in a foreign country like the US. Naturally, I'm sure many of us have seen loved ones, friends, let's say, or family members pass away in the US, and we've been to many ceremonies. The standard now is that there will be a memorial in a church because it's a convenient community center where, in a coffin like, I suppose, in a coffin, the dead body is placed. We say nice things in their memory, and then we walk or drive to a crematorium where the body is cremated. So I've always wondered what it would mean to take this thing seriously and to perhaps take it to its logical conclusion, which is what happens in the play. I don't want to spoil the play, but a man dies, an Indian man, perhaps like me, a little older than me, but I'm quickly reaching the age where that man dies in the play. The play was written 12, 13 years ago, at which time I thought this guy is much older than me. And he makes a strange request. He would like to be cremated in the Hindu way. And the most important question in the play, which I actually never answer, is this a stupid, foolish request? Because it puts his friends to great inconvenience. You see what his friends say, you see what his brother, the role being played by Rajiv, the brother who comes from India says, and I don't want to say those things because I want people to enjoy the play. And you see what his mother, his mother, who of course only speaks Hindi, who lives with him, who came to visit him to babysit his child and now lives with him, says about these things. So is this an absurd request which makes no sense? Coming from a man who's been living in this country for 30 years, is a US citizen, and as somebody funnily says in the play, do you know he ate beef? So, and so on. Or is this a noble gesture of an Indian, in this case a Hindu, seeking to reclaim his heritage? And the play doesn't quite answer it because honestly, I don't know the answer. I'll stop there. That's the broad idea.
Yeah, that's very interesting, Sujit, because all that you said is right on the money, right? Right on the dot. It's like that feeling about education and someone getting stuck with after leaving his friends with the inconvenience, etc., but making sure that the right rituals were performed after his passing away, as such. But do you think, or have you experienced, or have people come and talk to you about the sensitivity behind it and the sensitive topic about some passing away, and if it is being portrayed that way?
Well, yes, some people did mention it. I wouldn't go so far as to say anybody took offense because I don't even know if the matter is being portrayed lightly. There are light moments in the play, and there are what you might call irreverent lines in the play, where somebody is bound to say something irreverent about Naveen, the person who has died. But if you now consider everybody's point of view on death, the mothers, the brothers, his friends, it becomes clear that the play takes the matter rather seriously and asks what it thinks, it poses what it thinks is a serious question. So I don't think anybody thought we were trivializing death, though, yes, the play cannot help, indulging in some wisecracks, as people will.
Right, right. No, that is very commendable, because you have really, like I was saying as a earlier part of the show, that we love to celebrate our culture. We love to present our culture. We want to expose our culture. But when it comes to this particular topic, people tend to become much more sensitive than the happy times as such. And Chris, I'm going to ask you a quick question. We Many of us in the Washington D.C. area and people who are involved with Natya Bharati and have worked with you in the past know you or call you as the comedy king, because you have that unique sense of humor. You have the way of presenting and directing the plays to bring out those punches and the lines that really tickle the funny bone. But this play it is in some way a comedy, a hard-hitting comedy with a message, with some deep message behind it. How, when you picked up the script and decided that you're going to move forward with this, and you started directing it and started helping us understand it, how did you find that fine line between the comedy and the serious message?
Okay, I came to this play after directing Sujit's play, Everyone Loves a Good Tsunami. Now,
Hmm.
that was a serious subject, helping people who were devastated by the tsunami. But in that play, Sujit brought out the humor. And the humor comes from the Indian doctors fundraising or competing with each other and losing sight of the people they're supposed to help. Meera was Sushmaji in that play.
Oh, nice.
So in the same way that I read this script, I said, man, what this is a serious subject. But when we take ourselves too seriously, other people find us laughable. They find our seriousness humorous. And while we try to bring out the humor in this situation, I keep in mind the word that Sujit used when he gave an interview. This was on the Natak's website. Sujit, remember this? People asked you, if you had to describe the play in one word, what would you say? And you said incongruous.
Sure.
And the incongruity of telling your son or your family and your friends to perform your final rituals and rites the same way as they were done in India 30 years ago, not even as they're done in India today.
Right. Yep.
When in Rome, do as Romans do. Don't expect to do something here that your ancestor did 30 years ago. And then you might as well go back and say, what did they do 300 years ago? Can you still do that here? So that's where the humor comes from. The way we try to do what doesn't belong in this area, in this place, in this time.
Right.
So
And
it's here.
so, Chris, when in the play, there's certain moments which are very serious, right?
Yes. Yes.
Because the person's passing away and you're going through the rites for that person.
Right.
And then we are trying to mix certain of the realities of the emotions, as Sujit said, different people's different point of view, right, on what
Right.
they are going at that particular moment, and making a kind of a humor part of that cycle,
Right.
and bringing out that actor's capability to deliver those punches in that humorous way while the serious discussion about someone passing away is going on is an extremely challenging job. So when you talk to the actors, what did you tell them? How did you bring that emotions out from them to divide the line between seriousness and the comedy?
Well, as you know, you're one of the actors. I developed a backstory, and so I added background to every character, more than you had given in the script, and gave them more life, fleshed them out some more, so the actor could internalize that. That's what we've been trying, and Meera has really helped the actors internalize that and act it out. So I said, Mahesh is a marketing rep, an empty suit, and Naveen and he joined together. They had some company, they developed a product. Mahesh actually sold that to a larger company, and he accumulated a lot of money for himself, which is why some other people resent him. He gave Naveen enough to get a house in Pacific Heights, and so on. I built those up, and so then they could take those characters and how they will react in this given situation and show. So where a Mahesh says, this is not convenient, forget about it. Naveen wanted it, but he's dead. He must have been out of his mind. I don't care what he said. Whereas Ajay says, I will do what my father wanted. Usha says, if this is the one thing he wants from me, I will give it to him. And I changed Jeff to Jill, as you know, and Jill says, Usha, we will do it. We both loved him, but if he had known this is how much trouble it was going to cause, he would not have put you through it. But if you are determined to do it, I will support you. And really everybody supports it except Mahesh because of the practical incongruity of it or the impracticality of it. And Pramod, who has come from India, the land where all these things originated, and says, we don't do these things in India anymore. Why are you doing it? Because the expatriates are always stuck in the past. And that's what
Great.
makes it funny to our cohorts in India.
Yep. Great message, Chris. Great. And Meera, I have a question for you. So Chris worked with the actors on giving them that internal thing about who they are and to bring out that characters really well. And you were given the challenge of bringing these many people on the stage, and which is a huge challenge because a couple of people are speaking and many are not speaking, and moving around, which can be a distraction. Your blocking and tackling for this play is just amazing, out of the world. I have
Thank you.
enjoyed every bit of it, learning from it. So what were you thinking when you were suddenly thrown at the train and said, Mira, help us out and start thinking about how we bring this thing together. What were your thoughts?
No, initially I was overwhelmed because I just came on board, what, about 3, 4 weeks ago. And yeah, ensemble casts are always tough. And it's always about the forest and not the tree. Individual, they, collectively we rise or we collectively fall together. But for me, going back to the story itself, I didn't want it to be a farcical, I didn't want it to be a slapstick comedy. I preferred it to be a farcical comedy. It has its dark moments, it has its levity, it has its sincere, um, discourse about um, life itself and about our coming here and giving up everything and then wanting to go back. And so I think it touches on all aspects, kind of. Uh, Shakespearean you can take it to if we, tried our best. And that was the challenge to work with. And being a community theater, half our people are newbies, never been on stage. To train them to stand a certain way, to look a certain way, to talk a certain way was the challenge. But they all rose to it, and they, full-fledged gave their 100%, and we are where we are worth staging today. But what I loved about your writing, Sujit ji, is the fact that even in the face of death, Naveen Gupta is right there. Everybody is about their own self. It's the aham, the ego of each character. Mr. and Mrs. Shukla about, cooking and feeding, because you can't do anything without that. Maheshji, of course, he is a big a-hole that has been brought into, and reflective of many of our personalities in situations where it doesn't matter whether it's a wedding or it's a meeting. Everybody wants to just shine themselves. And I think that's the aspect I loved about all the characters, including Usha character, the wife, and even Jill. Jill now is happy, in my opinion, to upstage Mahesh because she is the executor here. And in our Indian way, we say executor, and she says, "Oh, that means different." And because we have an American Jill here, lawyer, she's like, "Executor is different from executor." We said, well, that's what she's doing to Mahesh, and we all are glad about that in the play. So yes, it was challenging, and but all of you just rose to the occasion and came together. And as uh, well, Sujit said, the players, parts of it seems incongruous. For me, it was putting together all of you together, and to me, to all of you, I might appear incongruous about what is she talking about. You have to stand this way, talk this way, don't move when somebody's talking. I've been yelling at all of you, but I think it's a collective effort. So I hope the audience really enjoys this, because this is worth watching, a play which uh, is, I think, deeply reflective for many of the first generation Indians who have come here but are frozen in time from when they left India. And India has changed. You go back now, you're no different from being in America there. So
Yep. And I would also tell everyone, all the listeners, people who are still trying to make up their mind for the weekend as such, don't judge the book by the cover. Uh, because there's this deep message behind this. Come see it to form your opinion about it. And Sujit may agree with this because every play I've been acting in theater world in DC area for last 20, 25 years. And uh, working with some of the big names here, I've learned one thing: a successful play is the one where people walk away, half of them with one different thought and half the other way the different
Sure.
thought. If all walked away with the same agreement, we miss something in presenting our message to the people. So the more discussion that happens and people have two different sides to it and saying what is good, what is bad, it really brings out the good part, and that we have delivered to what we wanted to deliver to it. Do you agree with that, Sujit?
Yeah, but it depends on the play, of course. In a play like this, which is on a matter as profound as death and which has characters who themselves do not agree on what it means or what his final request means, yes, I fully agree with what you're saying. Of course, there are plays where uh, perhaps there is not much to discuss once the play is over, but yeah. In this play, yes, if in the parking lot two people are disagreeing. If somebody is half defending Mahesh and somebody is saying he's a jerk, I suppose that's a well staged play.
Yeah.
I will add that there is one thing I'm hoping people will leave, all of them, thinking, I will never put that in my will. They all should agree to that.
Exactly. You see,
Yeah.
Rajiv, this is something I noticed about Sujit from doing Tsunami. He makes us look at ourselves, our community. It's an
Yeah.
unflinching guy. We all like to think we are great. There are many great things about our community, but there are also things that are not so great.
Mhm.
There are weaknesses. He makes us look at ourselves and realize there are things that could be improved.
Thank you. And of course, if you look around our own lives, your life, you will find many instances where what we are doing is rather silly or ridiculous and worthy of a play, right? So I know I'm referring to Krish, the play Krish directed, Tsunami. Uh, a great earthquake happened in Latur in Maharashtra.
Hmm.
You might remember. This is 1990s. I
Mhm.
was a grad student at Berkeley, and there was a big party. Khub naach gana hua, daru. It was all big. So I said, "Hey, you guys, 25,000 poor people have died in Latur in Maharashtra. You're having a big party." They said, "No problem. A part of the proceeds will go to earthquake victims." So the end justifies the means. And hota kya hai? Something horrible happens, right? And people who wanted to have a party to begin with anyway, they wanted an excuse, right, to have daru, and it's all cool. You should have daru and you should dance, but they turn this into a holy cause, and in truth, they will send a portion of the proceeds to people in Latur, and somehow that seems to make it okay. So
Mhm.
that is where the idea was born, and then of course, as you all know, a great tsunami happened, and
Yeah.
another story got added to it of Indian doctors. By the way, there are Indian those you said, right. There's a backstory to everyone.
Yeah.
Obviously, all these characters are real characters,
Mhm.
much modified, much camouflaged, massaged, and melded in. Two people melded into one, and so on. But there
Mm.
are such people in the Bay Area, and I'm sure in the DC area who
Yeah, and
there is.
always awakening is very difficult to take, right? When people are hidden on their conscience and they're told certain thing, it's very difficult for them to take it, and that's
Yeah.
where the question answers starts happening and discussion starts happening. So, but I would like to say I thank you so much for your time, and you guys really presented. Looking forward, and thank you, Chris, and thank you, Mira, for directing me
Thank
and taking me and become making me part of the Death in San Francisco. And Sujit, thank you so much. And I love my character Pramod for sure. And I need to share a funny story with you, Sujit, and with everyone all else on the watching the show. Um, when Chris told me about the character coming from India and always been India, and I always try to. I've learned this from Mira, the school of drama here, is get to understand your character and get into the character, right? So I started to think like who Pramod is going to be, how it will be, how they're going to walk, etc., etc. And I started imagining about my Chacha ji, my dad's younger brother, who is not with us anymore, is up in the heaven. And I was telling my dad कि when I think about Pramod character, I'm thinking about चाचा जी, उनकी शर्ट, उनका ऊपर का पॉकेट, उसमें फोन रहता है या पेन रहते हैं, नोटबुक रहती है, ढीली पैंट, चप्पल, एंड चल रहे हैं, the way he walked, etc., etc. Everything I talked to my dad, but it never clicked to me at that time to tell him anything more than that. 3 days later, when I came to rehearsal and I was practicing, the name Pramod came up and it clicked to me. My Chachaji's name was Pramod. So I imagined a character Pramod from my Chachaji who was Pramod, and it maybe like was a blessing coming from the heaven that Pramod, go and achieve your Pramod character. So I'm so excited about it. It really gave me the goosebump at that time that I'm in the skin of my Chachaji, acting like my Chachaji and walking like my Chachaji. And I hope I can make Mira and Chris happy with what I'm delivering. Sujit, I hope that I am able to portray the kind of character that you had put together in your playwright, thinking who Pramod is. And I'm hoping that everyone who come to watch the show, Death in San Francisco, which is happening this Saturday on 8th and 9th at 4 p.m. at the JCC Community Center in Rockville, Maryland
Yes.
on
Come,
Montrose
come,
Road.
come, come.
Come. Please come and watch the show. I know you would love it. You would love our presentation. You'll love the message. You'll walk away with something. And of course, open for discussions and be ready to discuss and debate it out as needed. But I'm looking forward to doing this play on Saturday and Sunday.
Yes.
And thanks to everyone for making me part of this journey. And thank you for directing me. And thank you for coming on this show today to get this message out to everyone who are still sitting on the sideline to come and watch the show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you
Bye
all.
bye.
Come and see for yourself.
Come and see for yourself. So hope to see you
Yep.
guys on 8th and 9th. Reach out to me after the play. I'll be happy to meet up with you guys. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.